videos as well that we are going to kind of analyze and look at how our handling position can affect the dog's path and where we want them to go to create a nice, smooth, fluid path. So before we get started, I don't know if you guys can see it, but here's a pencil. That's going to be my cursor. So hopefully I'll be able to like draw and things. We'll see how that works out. If you guys look down to the lower left-hand side of your screen, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but down here at the bottom underneath the chat box is a box of shared files. These are the three presentations basically that we will have in this webinar. One kind of is an overview of the base cues that we'll talk about, and then the next two are the courses that we will be looking at. So if you look at those and then just bring your mouse kind of over to the right, there should be that little blue circle. If you click that, you can download them. So then you can download these courses and the base cues PDF if you want it, so that you have it for future use. You do not have to download it. When you guys watch the recording later on, you'll still see those files and everything pop up. So you'll still see them on the recording, but if you want them on your computer, that's how you can do it at any time during this meeting before I end it. Just make sure and download those and you can have them for future. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to talk about base cues. So I have 3 base cues, and I just kind of wanted to go over these real quick before we start really getting into looking at these courses, so that when I start talking about lower body, upper body, and verbals, we are all on the same page. Okay, so your lower body is from your hips down. Your hips, down your legs to your feet. Your lower body creates impulsion. When you move, your dog moves. If your feet stop moving, your dog's feet will stop moving. So, sometimes we see that classic handler standing on the chances line and they can't move their feet and they're kind of flinging their arms over the line trying to get their dog to go. This is where dogs naturally read these cues. They will naturally read that lower body cue, and if my feet are not moving, my dog's feet are not going to move either. So if I'm stuck on that line and I'm trying desperately to get my dog to go out to that jump, if my feet are just glued and planted to the ground, I'm not going to be able to push them to that jump. So that's a big thing, is use your lower body to create impulsion. We cannot stand in one spot and expect our dogs to go on. Naturally, they will just read the lower body cues. A verbal cue, such as if we do see handlers and things like that if they are standing in one spot and the dog is going off verbal, is very taught. It's not something that is natural, and that's not a bad thing at all. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just 2 different ways to handle and to look at things. I tend to want to use what my dogs will already naturally follow. So hence why I focus on my lower body, upper body cues, because even tiny little 8-week-old puppies will read these cues and just go. If you've got a little 8-week-old puppy and they're walking alongside you and you stop moving your feet, they will stop. Whereas if I would have to teach that same 8-week-old puppy that if I just kept on walking, or if I stopped and I wanted them to do the opposite, such as, I stop but I want them to keep moving, I would have to teach them that. Whereas I have found using the lower and the upper body cues, they naturally respond. Okay, so then our upper body cues. Our upper body is from our waist up, focusing a lot on the shoulders and our arms. And that creates direction. So when we want to show our dogs where to go, we want to give them the path of where to go, we use our upper body. Our arms, our hands all point and tell our dogs the direction we want them to go. The one thing that the upper body cannot do is create impulsion. So again, back to that chances line. If we're standing on that chances line, pumping our arms back and forth is not going to create the impulsion for the dog to go. We're only creating a direction, but we're not giving an impulsion. Hopefully that makes sense. So when you look at handling and you look at what you need, to make your dog do a certain sequence, you're going to want to combine your lower body cues with your upper body cues. Your lower body is either, giving that dog impulsion, or we are deaccelerating. We want our dogs to slow down for a turn, or we want our dogs to stop on a contact. So in that case, our lower body needs to either stop, hesitate, slow down, something that creates a collection in the dog. If we want our dog to drive forward and get out and get more distance, we're going to want to move our feet. Okay? Now, our verbal cues are just confirming what our upper and our lower body is already saying. So if my lower body, if I am taking a step and my arm is out and my command is out, then that verbal command of out is just confirming what my body is already saying. If my dog looks back at my body and all my body cues are saying, I want you to come here, but my verbal saying out, I would expect my dogs to follow the body language first. They will most always follow, that natural body language before a verbal. And I tend to blend my verbals together. I do not have a black and white, this command only means this, period. I guess except in cases of wait means wait. But I tend to blend things together. First example that comes to mind is if I need my dogs to do a switch, which a switch for my dogs means for them to turn away, and I also need them to move away from me with the switch, I would say switch out. If I need my dog to turn away, a switch, and I need them to turn tightly with that switch, I would say switch tight. I do not like having a gazillion commands, so I do blend my verbals. Now, again, my verbals back up the body language. So if my body language is very gray or kind of I'm not giving them a really good body language cue, but I'm just yelling verbals at them, I'm not going to get that nice tight turn or that nice fluid path that I would get if I was giving them a really good body language cue. So I really focus on my body language. That is the biggest thing. I want that to be the biggest cue for my dog. So when we get into talking about this next little course we're going to bring up here, and I start saying lower body cues, upper body cues, and things like that, hopefully we're all on the same page and we all kind of got this under control. Okay? And this is one of this little form here, this PDF or whatever it is available on the left-hand side to download if you want to download it so that you have a copy of it. Same with this next course that we're going to open up. So this sequence, this course, I absolutely love. It is actually a little sequence from a Touch and Go course that I ran last year, and I have used it in my seminars ever since. I think I've used it in almost every single seminar I taught last year, and we'll probably use it again this year. It is just a really fun exercise, and there's so many different ways to handle it, and there is so many different challenges. It's just incredible. So the biggest challenge, again, I ran this as a Touch and Go course, the very first that happened, and hopefully everybody can see my cute little pencil, is that, let's see here, we go 1, 2 over the A-frame, 3, and we're supposed to continue out to this hoop to 4 and 5. When I initially handled it, I came up into here, A-frame, and I planned on just kind of standing here and, sending her up to 3 to 4, and then being right here to call her into 6, and then push up to 7. Just about every dog in the class, including mine, a lot of people handled from this same area. Some handled in between these two tunnels. Some came down here and handled here. But the majority, I would say, came right kind of at the end of this contact zone on the A-frame. So what ended up happening is our dog went up and over the A-frame. They went to number 3 hoop. And then even in my video, I thought I gave nice body language to indicate number 4. And she came off of number 3 and just poof, right into the wrong end of 6. I swung her out of 6, back around to this 9 hoop, back up the A-frame and tried again. And once again, 3, poof, right into number 6. And that was pretty consistent with every dog. They all just wanted to pop right into that number 6 tunnel. I thought maybe, just a way it was set, maybe the way they, saw things. So when I set this up again in another seminar, And before all the attendees came out, I went out and worked Nargles again in the morning, and I got the same 3 to 6. I think a lot of it, when I changed my handling position, I got different things. But when I stood here, I pretty consistently got 3 to 6. And honestly, I think a lot of it, in my opinion, is that we work our dogs so much on turn, 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 that she just did not trust that I really wanted her to do a nice big outrun. She had no faith that that's really what I wanted. She really thought we were making a turn, especially those big tunnels sitting there. This hoop, number 4, is not nearly as visible as here's all these tunnels that she was looking at, and I just consistently got 3 to 6. So different ways to handle this. I still like this handling position here. If you're going to go in, nice and deep and do a little bit of layering on these tunnels. I came up, like I said, in this contact zone. As she came down the contact, I pushed her out to 3. Again, using our lower body, I took a really nice big step. Have my my right arm out. I'm giving her a nice big push to 4. So as she hit 4, I'm now going to give her a here to bring her into number 5. Didn't have a lot of dogs. The dogs that did do this big outrun, some of the handlers were concerned that they would get a whole bunch of speed, do this big outrun, more in here at 12. But it was so far away that really didn't even become an option. I mean, there's nothing out here. And a lot of it is what the dogs see visually. And coming off 4, I think if maybe there was another hoop out here even, something that they could have kind of focused out, that would have been an issue. But where this is just kind of a big blank empty space, but there's all this stuff down here, everybody, if they got up to 4, they turned beautifully into 5. Reason I like this handling position right here was from 6 to 7, which was kind of, it's a funky angle. It was kind of a funky push. Everybody did it beautifully because they came out of this tunnel with so much impulsion straight that as they came out and the handlers gave them their here, even, dogs that were being really efficient out of this tunnel, as they gave them that here, they had that impulsion, oh my gosh, I cannot draw, and went right up into that hoop. And so I like this handling position here because I could really give them, as they hit 6, as they, went into 6, I could give them nice body language that cued them. They were going to be making a turn, and as they came out, I could give them this really nice cue to come up here and hit 7. 7, 8, 9 is pretty straightforward. You're right here. The one thing when you're handling up here is a couple of people got a little stuck. They got a beautiful turn up into 7. Dogs hit the A-frame, and instead of kind of following down with the dog, we got a little stuck right here. I don't know what that little thing is. Okay. Sorry, things keep popping up on my screen. So the dog got a little stuck, or excuse me, handler got a little stuck right here. And so the dog, comes off the A-frame, they're hitting 9, and the handler ends up being here. Now we're kind of stuck behind this tunnel, and we need to do 11 and switch to 12, and that made it a little funky in here. So when you're looking at things like this, you want to, when I walk courses, I look at places as far as, okay, I need to drift down. So here's an example of what I mean by drift down, is that I want to kind of follow my dogs down here. I don't want to get stuck in this hole where then I'm behind these tunnels. So, excuse me. So as my dog is coming through 7, after I've cued that turn and I've got commitment to 7, as she's coming down the A-frame, I'm going to start moving down the A-frame. So now, hopefully, if I've done it right, I'm here, right where my little pencil is. So then I can even, still get nice distance, send them 9 to 10, cut across, they hit 11, switch, and here I am. If you wait too long, if you queued for the 7, or even if you've gone too far up here, we've gone a little deep up into 7, and we don't want to race them down the contact, and get a missed contact, then you end up risking getting stuck in this little pocket. Same thing for our next handling position. The next position is you could handle from in between these 2 tunnels. I'm not a huge fan of it just because in between 2 tunnels. I don't like being behind tunnels if I can help it. I want my dog to see. I want my dog to be able to see me. So if I get in, where I'm behind a tunnel like that, now all that lower body language that I'm trying to use to cue them for impulsion, or if I need them to collect, they can't see it behind that tunnel. So this is not a favorite. That does not mean that you shouldn't practice it. I'm a big fan of look at a course, handle it from where you really like it. Now do it again and handle it from a place where you feel uncomfortable, because when you get to a trial, your prime handling position is not always going to be available. So it's good to practice. And when I do this in seminars, I make all the students, they all have to handle it from what they consider like the perfect handling spot for themselves and their dog. And now I want, then I start moving them around. It's like, okay, now I want you to be here. Now I want you to be here, and tell me how you would handle this course from all these different positions. Okay, so back in between the two tunnels. So we lead out. You're going to have some pretty nice distance. You're going to layer, between the tunnel and the A-frame. So, contact skills need to be pretty good because we've got some good distance going on there. Now, the one nice thing about being here is what I think happened by handling over in this position. Again, I firmly believe that a lot of dogs, because we practice so much turn, that they're just not used to going straight. By us standing here and we're trying to push to 4, I think the dogs just kind of, take it upon themselves going, oh no, we're doing a turn. Here she is. She's kind of sitting there right by this tunnel. I bet you she wants a turn. Nice thing about handling in between these two tunnels is as the dog's going through 3, here you are, somewhere in this general area, and you're basically giving them that path to 4. You're cueing them to continue on, and come over to 4. What I don't like about handling here is now 6 to 7. You have options. So you can kind of stay up at the top of these tunnels, cue into 4 and 5, and then just go do a little front cross thing or a blind cross or whatever it is you want to do, a cross of a sort. And you can get over to this side, so we can cue 5 to 6. Here you are, 6 to 7. You can get the job done, I think, going 5, 6, 7 if you stay in this little pocket. But probably not the prettiest thing in the world. You're going to have a pretty good switch, and you're going to be using that lower body to really push them out there. Again, does not mean you shouldn't practice it. I make everybody handle from in between these two tunnels because it's a good spot to have to work a lot of those distance and directional skills, and it's really good to work on that lower body. So again, you're in here. We're going to layer that A-frame again. I'm assuming your handlers, we're going to want to move down a little bit, help draw that path down 9, 10. Again, we have options. You can help draw that path down 9, 10. As they enter 11, you can cross behind 11, pick up your switch for 12 and out. Or you can stay at the top of this pocket, really get some distance between 8, 9, 10, and you can do a front cross or a blind cross at the top of this tunnel into 12 and out. So there's a couple of different little variations you can do here to figure out, where you want to go. Let's see. Other handling positions, I believe, yes, I made people handle from over here. Really work on the distance skills, your start line skills. So for handling from over here, now you're going to have to really push to get 3 and 4. Unless you're going to come up in between these two tunnels, kind of like what we did over here. If you're going to come up here and kind of really push and pull, to get them up 3, 4, and then into 5, but now we're in a bit of a jam with 5, 6, 7. Now you're looking at a switch, and this is what, if I, for some reason, got stuck over here, that 6 to 7 would be my switch out, because I would want them to make their directional change and then push out. If I was way over here and I just hollered switch, I would assume Nartles would just go poop right over to the A-frame. So this is a good example of where I would do switch out to really push them up there to 7. Your handling position on courses, a lot of it, depends on your dog. It depends on how they read you. It depends on their foundation and how they're taught. But, your handling position can really determine the kind of path you're going to have. So, for instance, if we go back over here, we're back over here by our little A-frame contact. Where I am up and down this tunnel really determines the kind of efficiency I would have, right? So if, for instance, let's say I stay way back here, okay? So I'm going to stay way back here, and I'm going to push them up 3, 4, Here I am, I'm right here, 5, 6. Now, because I'm right here, I can really control that path and get a really tight, efficient turn between 5 to 6 because I am up, excuse me, I am up here and my body language in of itself is cueing the dog, to want to come towards me and to want to turn tight, okay? Because I'm right here, again, I can really, pick them up and put them into 6. Now, if I were to come down here, right, and we're going to do that same turn, 5 to 6, ignoring that we have to go to 7. We're just looking at 5 to 6. Now, if I come down here, the dogs, as they're coming from 4 to 5, see me down here. As they're coming through this tunnel, they see this hoop. So if I'm standing down here, my chances are more than likely my dog's going to come blasting out of 5, not collected at all. And so I'm going to get this big wide turn into 6. So unless you're down here and you also have some sort of cue that tells them we're making a turn, collect and turn, if you're not right on top of it and we're handling from down here, then you could definitely get you could definitely get a big turn from 5 to 6, which a little bit not off topic, but a little diversion thing here. So when it comes to tunnels, I give all my cues as they're entering that tunnel. So when I talked about just a second ago, when I said, unless your dog is collected coming into 5, going into 6, as my dog comes into 5, if I am down here, as they come into 5, just before her little nose enters that tunnel, I'm going to be yelling my command, which in this instance will be back. So as she comes in that tunnel, I'm going to be hollering back at her, and she now knows that she needs to collect because we are making a turn. And that kind of tells her, what we're doing and where we're going. It gives her that collection. If I wait until she's out here before I start hollering back, it's going to be too late. She's going to be fully extended, and she's probably going to come down and go whoop, way down like a big old U and out. So you just have to, a lot of it is, what your dog knows and how they respond. How I would handle this for Tri versus Snargles is very different just because of, what their foundation is and how they respond to my different cues. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. So when you're looking at courses, your body language really determines kind of what path you're going to be taking. Another thing, we're going to see if I can draw it. Everyone beware, I'm going to draw. Oh, and it's a giant yellow line. Oh, this is fun. Okay, we are going to use the power of, oh my gosh. We're going to use the power of imagination and say that's a tunnel. Oh, that's funny. So anyway, if we have a tunnel underneath the A-frame, okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about different ways that I handle, and the biggest thing for me is where our feet point is where our dogs are going to go. I cannot stop laughing at this tunnel. So if my pencil is me, I'm handling, okay? My pencil has no feet, so this makes it a little hard. But if my pencil had feet, what I would want to do is I'm going to be pointing my feet at that tunnel. So if we're going 1 and out to the tunnel, oh my God, you guys are bad. If I'm going to put it out into the tunnel, I do not want my feet facing north, facing towards 3, right? I would want my feet pointed towards that number 2 because I want my feet to tell them out. We're going out to that tunnel, right? So ignoring this hideous drawing, it's hard to explain. I should have done maybe my YouTube videos, I think, show it a little bit better. Is that pointing at the obstacle is kind of what we're aiming for. We want to point our feet where we want our dogs to go. We want to look where we want our dogs to go. So same thing is coming, say, let's go 6 to 7, okay? If my dog is coming out of 6, but my feet, I can't get this pencil to do what I want it to do, but my feet are, say, pointing, again, straight up towards the 60 mark here. I'm just pointing straight up. I'm not going to get the path I want is if I turn my hips and point my feet right here to number 7. Okay, Zach, I hope that's making a little bit of sense there. We want to focus on point your feet where you want your dog to go. If your feet and your eyes, if you're looking where you want your dog to go and your feet are pointing, your body will follow that. Okay. All right, let's go to the next. Let's do the next course. We don't have to stare at our yellow tunnel anymore. Okay. So this is a chances course. Again, some of you are going to recognize it because I know I have used it with some of you guys in my seminar. I, again, set this up at almost every seminar I do. It is a lot of fun. It's very challenging. I like to run it. It's just, I thoroughly enjoy this course. This is another example of a course where I blend my verbals. So, for instance, 4 to 5. Okay. If I give my dog, that is my phone, please go away. If I were to give my dog from 4 to 5 just a switch, okay, and just I'm handling back over here, and I'm just going to give them a switch command. What I would assume I'm going to get is 4 to 9, right? And that's pretty much what happens. If I come up and I say I'm handling over here, and I say switch, they're going to look up here to 9, and out we go. When I say switch tight, now I'm getting my turn of direction and the tight turn. Okay, so my handling position, for my dogs, switch means for them to turn away from me. So if I'm up here, then this doesn't apply. If I was going to push them to 4 and then call, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But if I'm going to handle down here and I'm going to pull them into 4 and then I'm going to switch them to 5, I would want to give my dogs a switch and a tight so that my dogs will change direction, switch, and then the tight or the here, depending on how it's set. I've run this a few different times. When we did it in, I forget the different place. I know we did it in Mammoth. When we did it in Mammoth, I would have given a tight because of the way that this was set. Really, really needed a tight turn. I set it again. I believe I set it in Red Lodge. And when I set it there, this just didn't quite lay out the way it did in Mammoth. And this 9 wasn't nearly as there as it was before. So in that case, I would have given them a switch and a here to get my 4 to 5. I hope that kind of makes sense for everybody. And then again, so we're going 5, 6, and 7, a little reverse pinwheel thing going on here. So if I'm back here, we're going 3, 4. I'm going to give her a switch and a here. I wish my pencil had like feet and arms. This is odd. Switch. Here we go. Switch and a here, and I'm in this area. Now, what we don't want to do, and what ends up happening, again, why I love this course so much, is handlers start getting a little antsy. We pull them from 5. And because we know we're making this turn, as we're pulling in from 5, handlers, they pull in and they go switch. And they're kind of right exactly where my pencil is. They're right in that dog path. And the dogs pull off a 5 and go, or excuse me, not pull off a 5, pull off a 6. They come over 5, pull off a 6, and hit 7, and just try to serpentine this whole thing. What needs to happen from 5 to 6 is as they come through 5, us as a handler, we almost need to drift them this way. We need to pull. You're going to walk your pencil right towards the 70 mark, pull them this way, and then switch. So we're making a nice arc. And then we can, pull them from 5, push up to 6, and then we've got our 7 and our 8. The way I handled it is just like what I just demoed there with my pencil. I came down here, 3, 4, I said switch here. I was just about here. I pulled her down 5 and just walked, just took about 2 steps, enough to pull her just, right about here. As she came here, I gave her a switch out, and then the switch gave my turn from 6. The out gave my nice out to 7. Another way to handle this is to come up here. Now, if you come up here, me being down here, I did get a bit of a wide turn because I'm not, right on top of her, to manipulate that path. And they are really looking, pretty hard at 9. If you come up here and you call them to you up 1, 2, 3, you're going to call them up, and then you're going to push them to 4, and then you're just right here for a nice post turn. You just pivot right in place, give them a tight or a here, whichever you want to do. But we still have to draw and bring them down to get our flip from 5, 6 to 7. Now the next hard part is 7. We get them pushed out to 8, and by the time most dogs, once they've got the impulsion, you've done this nice turn and out, and then we're using that lower body to really push out. We're bringing them down 8, 9. Beautiful. Now the killer here is they're 8, 9, and 9 is just lined up for 4. And the dogs just see this beautiful arc here, and they don't really see that. What I found is the common consensus with this course was from 9 to 10 is everybody just wanted to give an out. Because from a handler view, as the dog's coming over 8, the dog is coming over 9, they, just kind of saw it as just this slight out. From a dog's visual standpoint, what I saw is here they come, they're coming around this arc. Most all handlers are usually here. They're using this area, and that's cueing 4. You're right in the line of sight for 4. What I ended up doing is as she came over 9, as she was coming over 9, I gave her a switch. And I said, switch poles so that I could get that turn I needed into 10, into those poles, over and out. This line kind of kills you a little bit because it's so square. So instead of being able to, kind of give them an out, if the line, we're going to draw again, everybody beware. So if the line kind of came like that instead of this square, then I think you could give an out because now your body would be able to cue those poles. But what happened is everybody's on this side of the line here, and we're saying out, but we couldn't give any lower body impulsion, any direction with our feet to point towards those poles because we're stuck on this line. And we're moving, down the line as opposed to kind of we want to move towards the dog, towards 10, which is why I ended up giving a switch to get that turn, 10 and then out for 11. As far as handling this, I've handled it a couple of different ways. My personal favorite was to handle it here. I thought that gave me nice, clean lines. What I really liked is it kept me out of the way. By handling down here and pulling to 3 and then giving my switch here for 5, I pretty much ended up right here every time, in between 4 and 5. So what ends up happening there is I'm not in the dog's way. When I came up here, and when the students all came up here, we made them all handle from up here, what ended up happening is we got beautiful lines. 3 to 4 was gorgeous, 4 to 5 was gorgeous, but then here is everybody, right into 5, and everybody's twitchy about this little reverse pinwheel. Well, so as the dog came over 5, handlers can't help it. As they're coming over 5, their upper body is already starting to make that turn to 6, and the dogs cue it, and go right up into 7, as opposed to kind of drifting down just ever so slightly in 6 and 7. When everybody handled down here, what ended up happening is we got this beautiful turn, 3 to 4. If the timing was right and people were, we're using our upper and lower body together with that verbal, we got a beautiful switch, and almost everybody ended up here. So what happened with that then is they're all out of the way. We're down here, and the most that could happen, even if I took a step directly up at 5, I was still far enough away from the dog that I could allow that drift. So as they turned to 5, I just drifted towards the 70 mark, just even for one stride for the dog, just enough to get them out here, because I don't want them doing this. We want them to do this. So it's just enough to, draw them down and then switching out. It also kept me down here so that I wasn't coming up here. I found if we handled up here, we did the call and the push to 6, is we all wanted to follow our dogs to 7. We wanted to do kind of cross behind a 6, and here we are. And so once we ended up in this pocket, now it was just a race. So we got the out to 8, and we're all just hauling down here trying to get 8, 9, 10, and it made for kind of funky angles to get to 10. So I look at a course, like when I look at this course, I want to pick out all the areas where I really need nice, clean path, and I really need, to be there for my dog to really, see that body language, okay? So what that means is I really want my dogs to see this turn from 4 to 5. I stay back here. I'm staying out of the way of 5 so I can draw them down, draw them ever so slightly here, and be able to switch. And now I'm also still kind of in this general area so that when they come down, 8, 9, 10, if I'm over here, I can help them with that path from 9 to 10, whether it's with a switch or if I feel like an out will work for that. It gives them that clean path that we're looking for. So hopefully that kind of makes sense to everybody. What we're talking about here. When each dog is different. Like when I look at this course, if I was going to run with Nargles versus Tri, it's all very different. It's how your dog responds to your body language. Is your dog really sensitive to pressure, not so sensitive to pressure? And that all makes a difference as to where and how you're going to handle all of this. So with Nargles, where I might handle her here, Tri, I might handle up here. It just depends on how they respond to pressure, and each dog is different. How I look at it is, again, like I said, I just kind of look at a course and I pick the places where I feel I really need to be able to really put pressure on my dog, really as far as path pressure. I need to really show them this is where I want you to go. This right here, this is where I want you to go. So for me on this course, I look at 4 to 5. I really want to have pressure on 4 to 5, and I really want to have pressure on 9 to 10. The rest, hopefully, should just kind of come if I'm doing it right. But these 2 places here are the 2 places I want to make sure that I am really helping my dog and where I need to be. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, don't forget, if you want these 2 courses, when you download them from the left-hand side, they won't have all this fancy schmancy yellow line stuff. So that's good. Okay, so we're going to watch a couple of these videos I have. I'll start back over a little bit. Okay, so let's just watch it through, and then I'll rewind it, and we will talk about it a little bit.
Good girl.
Okay, so let's see if I can make this rewind. Oh gosh, okay. Okay, so this is just a little barrel hoop setup I did. And what we're going to talk about, and what I did these videos for, is to show upper body and lower body. So again, we're going to play this for a second. I'm going to pause it in the spots I want. So oh my gosh, that was scary. Let's try that again. Good Lord, I just wanted to pause it. Okay, let's try this again. Apparently, I am not good with this. Okay, here we go. Pause. What the heck? Okay. So apparently we can't pause it where I want to pause it, which, is somewhat rude. Wow, it just will not do anything. Huh. Like that. Pause. Kind of. Excuse me while I play with our program. There, will you pause? Yay! Yes, the little things in life that make me happy. Okay, so let's look at the body language. So my leg is out. I am using my lower body and my feet to point where I want her to go, which is around this barrel. You can also see me getting ready to cue the turn. So in this instance, all these videos are of the same course, and I'm just showing different handling positions. What I'm doing right here is I want to handle from up in between these 2 barrels. So just like what we talked about that previous course up here, is I'm putting pressure on the path where I feel I really need to help her, which is these 2 barrels. And then I let her do the distance on these hoops out here because I feel like she doesn't need as much pressure. I hope that makes sense. So here I am. So we're cueing for the out barrel. And then right there, I bent over a little bit. No bueno, that's not good. But I turn and immediately am picking her up to push her back around the next barrel. I'm trying to cue a nice tight turn. If I stood up, it would be oh so much better. but that's what we're looking for. Is my upper body is now creating that direction. Here we go again. And, oh my gosh, the pausing is so weird. And again, so my foot is out. I'm cueing the next barrel. My arm is, same arm, same leg, using both my upper body cue and my lower body cue to push her out around that barrel. And cueing her to, good Lord, cueing her to come back again. Now right here, as she's coming around the barrel, as you watch me, I'm now taking big steps. Look at that, nice big steps. To now cue her, I need impulsion, because I want her to come around that barrel and push to that hoop. So I want tons of impulsion, because I'm now going to do distance. Where's my thingy? There it is. I'm now going to do distance around these 3 hoops. So I'm going to stay here, and I need that impulsion to push her up into those hoops. So I'm taking big steps. This doesn't mean I'm going to run with her to this hoop, but even these 1 or 2 big steps here give her the impulsion that we need to push her up into that next hoop. So then we're going to let her go. I direct her out and picking her up for the next barrel. Now here you can see I'm using my upper body again. We're cueing that directional turn, and trying to give her a nice tight turn around that barrel and pushing her again with a nice big step, so we have a lot of forward impulsion. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if this thing will work for me, and let's watch it one more time. Cue, impulsion, turn. Good, and turn and impulsion. And that's the big thing, is giving her that impulsion to go around, cue the turn, and push. I really like this exercise. I've set it up a few different times because, just as you'll see in these videos, there's multiple ways to handle it. I mean, you can go from different, from the left side of the whole sequence, right side, behind and front, all that sort of good stuff, so that you can really work on all the different handling positions. Let's go to the next video. Okay, let's watch this one all the way through. So we're going to a different handling position now.
Get up. Normal.
Okay, so let's rewind. We're going to see if we can work the whole pause feature again. Should be interesting. So now we're going to do distance on these 2 barrels. So again, I'm cueing her out. Well, that was a bad pause spot. Okay, right here is where we want to talk about. So I am cueing her to come towards me. This is kind of, it's a back kind of almost. A back for me means for my dogs to turn away from me. They're coming towards me and I want them to turn back away from me. They're going to go straight away from me. So I did end up using a back here, and as you can see, we're going to play it. I'm going to rewind it just a little bit. I step back out of her path. There's a better pause of me pushing her out. When you watch this, I have to give her space. If you see where I am into the barrel, I need to give her space to come around the barrel. So right here, you see me back up. And there's my leg. I'm opening her up so that I'm letting her into that space to give her the space around the barrel. And I'm late on cueing the turn. I gave her the space, but I should have stepped up a little bit faster. I hope that makes sense. I should have stepped back, give her the space, and then immediately step forward to create a little bit tighter turn around that barrel. And then here, just a nice little pinwheel, and again, turn and cue. So I want to look at that back one more time. No, where are we? Go forward. We don't need all this. Okay, so again, you watch. I bring her down and back. Backs are a lot of fun, and that is an instance where I thought, because of where I was, handling position-wise, I wanted to give her the space, come around the barrel, and then because of the way she was coming towards me, a back seemed my best option as far as I wanted. That verbal to me made the most sense for her and I together. That's where I talk about that I blend my verbals, or that I use them together, is that I look at courses, I look at sequences and go, okay, I think that here you know, she is coming towards me, she's turning away, that's a back, and I'm going to follow it, you know, and help her with this body language. Like I said, I don't like to have a million commands. I want to have just kind of my core few verbals, and then I can blend those together to get the path, you know, that I need. And that's where I like blending things like this. You know, people who work with, you know, excuse me, people who do backs and, you know, come to seminars will maybe watch this video and kind of go, it's not, you know, a back. And I think, here, let me go back to one of these things. We're going to go back to this. Oh, that's a sad one. Okay. A back in the traditional sense, we're going to draw. Ignore all this over here. We're going to draw. A back in a traditional sense is, pretend that's a jump. It's a little lopsided, don't judge. Here's another jump. Here's another jump. Here's, oh, okay, it's okay. So look, I can change colors. Hang on. The blue dot is the dog. Okay, and my pencil is me. A traditional back is my dog is coming towards me. Here I am. I'm the pencil. I'm calling my puppy towards me. I'm pencil, and then I say back, and my dog then goes up these two jumps, you know, dead away from me, back to where he came. So that is a traditional back. So in this video, it's not a traditional back in the sense of she is not coming dead toward me. She's coming at an angle, and then I send her back. But if you watch, she is, in a sense, right there, coming right at me, and then send her away. I just need to be a little sooner with that back, with that turn, to get her, you know, a tighter path around that barrel. Okay, let's see here. Another YouTube video. Let's see if we can get this to do. Okay, we're gonna watch this whole thing, and then we'll do our pausing because we're getting better at it. Excuse me. Okay. Let me watch this again. Okay, so here we go. Walk up here, I'm going to push. There's that nice big push. Push her up around the barrel. Now, where we just talked about the back, I bring her here. What I ended up saying to her right there, I'm pretty sure was a back as well. I've listened to this video a couple times trying to hear my verbal, and I can't hear it. But because I filmed this last year. So, you know, I can't remember what I ate yesterday, so I honestly don't remember what I said. Watching the video, my gut tells me I gave her a back here as well, because here we are coming at me and back. This is where I confuse people with my handling, is because, you know, we watch the first videos back, and then we watch that videos back, and they look different, right? So there's the first videos back, and then this video's back. The handling position is just ever so different. But that's how it's hard for me to explain. That's how I like to blend the verbals together, is that even though those two handling positions are a little bit different, my dog is reading the body cues, you know, the upper and the lower body cues, and my verbal is just helping them with, okay, here we go, and back away from me. So even though my handling position is, you know, ever so different on this one, it's still a back. So what would make it a switch? So if I were to be more over here, where my pencil is, I'm trying to see the video, there we go. So if I'm where my pencil is, you know, she's going to go around that barrel, she's coming here. If I'm standing more in this position, now I'm going to give her a switch. But when I start getting, you know, further over here, like I was in this video, where I'm kind of, you know, in the middle, now it's not a switch. She's not turning off my hip. A switch for my dogs means they're at my side, they're on a hip, and they turn away from me. They switch off that hip. Whereas a back, you know, they're coming towards me and I want them to turn away. The degree of how they turn is dependent on my body language, and that goes for the switch as well. A switch could be an extremely tight switch where they're making a very tight switch, you know, very tight turn, or a switch could be they're going to switch and do this big, you know, archy loopy thing. It's all body language dependent. It depends on what I am doing with my body that gives them the degree of turn. I hope that makes some sense. Okay, so let's see. So Yep, we've got all our videos. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go back to something. We're going to go back to that. And I'm going to open it up for question. I've been testing with this webinar thing, and the mics are just funky on here because everybody's computer is a little bit different. Everything's a little different. So what we're going to do is, unless it's going to be a total pain, I'm going to have you guys type your questions, and then I'll verbally respond. Because I think that might work just a little bit better than everybody's mic coming on and we're all talking over the top of each other and all that sort of stuff. Now I got the hang of all this webinar stuff, we can figure it out as we go with more webinars. Okay, so any questions? If you have questions, just go ahead and type them out and I will respond as we go. And in case, for those who weren't here, oh, you can't see my pencil over here. The chat box feature that's over here, that's where you're going to type your questions into. It's just this handy dandy little box. You should already see people typing over here. Or, excuse me, stuff already been typed. Chances course. Yeah, oh, we need to get rid of all that. Hang on, I am erasing. Is that an eraser? No, that just makes it bigger. I have no idea how to erase all my squiggly lines. Oh my gosh, there it is. Okay. We're going to get rid of the squiggly lines so that we can talk. Okay, apparently we're not. Apparently we're not going to get rid of the squiggly lines. There we go. Yay! It's the little things that make me happy. Okay, so yeah, in the chances course, 8 to 9. So 8 to 9, what ends up happening is if you, excuse me, so we do 5, 6, 7, is if we start to focus on, oh my gosh, we have to get down here. If we start running down that line and we're not focused on out to 8 to 9 to 10, then that could become an issue too if we start following the line. What ended up happening for 8 to 9? Or you got it, really draw the path. Sorry, there's all sorts of stuff on my screen that I don't think you guys can see, and I can't see everything. But yeah, 8 to 9, I think in a lot of it, as everybody, we got so happy that we made 4, 5, 6, 7, that, 8 to 9 became even harder because like, yay, we did it. Oh gosh, there's still more. That's kind of what happened to me anyway. I love this chances course. It is super hard, but it is very fun. Okay, see people typing. Oh, lots of people typing. By the next webinar, I think we're going to improve on the drawing skills. That's my new goal. I'd like to be able to draw a tunnel that actually looks like a tunnel. Okay, I'm gonna move this so I can see everything. We talked a lot about your verbal cues, that they are to back up lower body. Is it possible to rely solely on body cues with only occasional verbals? I have enough trouble typing. Yes, definitely. And so to be totally honest, if I get into a situation, I look at a course or I'm out running something, and I get into a situation where I look at a sequence and I'm like, I have no idea what to say, then I will say nothing. Because you are better off to draw the path than you are to try to start spewing verbals out. And if you're having a hard time trying to connect the verbals to the body language, and nothing's really coming out right, then oh, heck yeah. You're better off to rely on body language. If I had to choose, if I had to come out and run courses and I either could do only verbals or only body language, I'm going to choose body language every time. I think dogs react, nicely to it, and I don't think you have to have verbals. And even like my verbals, um, you know, I tend to, rely more on my body, and the only thing that I really say to my dog are verbals that I really need. The switch or the back or the tight. Um, you know, those are the things that I will want to get out to the dog, as opposed to kind of that, nonstop verbal of, get out, good boy, here, because then that becomes more white noise, and I really want my dogs to, hear my verbals. I hope that makes sense. And Jody, yes, there was a bonus box, and you did do it because I watched it, and it was gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. And if I do, when I watched your video, I was super proud because just like we were talking about here, 5, 6, 7, you so beautifully drew her from 5 to 6. It was gorgeous. I do remember that. Now that you bring it up, because I remember watching it going, "Yay, Jody!" So yes, you did do it, and it was very, very nice. I hope that makes sense, Deborah, with when we talked about verbal and the body language stuff. That you don't have to have verbal. I think there are some instances where you need to have some verbal, to just kind of help the dog. Like for instance, on this course, 7, 8, 9. There needs to be, in my opinion, some sort of verbal to confirm to the dog. Especially if you're like down here. If you're way down here, you want to confirm, like, yes, out. That tells them, yes, that's what we're doing. I think if you're totally silent, then dogs might kind of go, I wonder if this is right. So there are some instances that you want to have, a verbal to, help them out, just to confirm that path to them. So yeah, I do love this course. It's in my little file of things I set up in the seminar because it is a lot of fun. Do we have any other questions? Are you guys good? I think. Let me move my little thing so I can't see anything on here. If everybody is good and there are no other questions, I don't see anybody else typing. I don't see any little red flags, so I think we're good. If everybody's good, then I will turn the recording off. And this will be the end of the recording. Excuse me. You guys are more than welcome to hang out, and don't forget to download stuff if you want to download stuff. And I should have, the recording takes a while to process. So once it is processed and I have it uploaded, I will email all of you and send you all the link, to this recording. If you don't get an email by, say, I'm leaving this weekend, but I should have it done tomorrow. But if you don't get one by Monday, then definitely email me, as I may have just accidentally missed you. So make sure and email. And thank you guys all very much for coming. This was fun, and I think beyond some of the little issues I had on my end, I think we're good, and it's working good, this software anyway, and we will definitely be holding more of these. I have a good time, so yay. Okay, recording off.